Good morning to all of you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Okay, so we will start on a new topic today. Last time we finished the mindfulness topic. All 4 levels of mindfulness we could finish. And also we discussed the topic called concentration, where we discussed the samadhi states of the mind and how to access that concentration state during meditation. Then some other meditations are to be discussed in the future, but in our curriculum we have this topic, managing stress, and how we can use meditation as a tool to manage our daily stress, which is very important, especially for the undergraduates and actually everyone. But especially during your undergraduate days, because there are a lot of work to be done from time to time, you may feel stress. And we will be discussing what is the term called stress and how can it arise, what are the causes for the stress, and then we will discuss how to overcome stress before it becomes or before it grows to a damaging level to the mind. So one of the most important topics for everyone. So that is our topic today, and as you requested, we will not be having the quiz this week. Please prepare for it in the next week, so you have more time. I think that announcement itself will reduce your stress a little bit. Okay. So first of all, let's visualize something. Assume that we all are in a classroom or a hall, and then the room temperature of the hall is slowly reduced by someone. Okay. Suppose we are conducting this lecture in a lecture room, and while you are listening to me, without our knowledge, someone is reducing the temperature of the AC. So the room goes to low temperatures gradually. But since you are listening to me, your attention may be on the lecture, but how would you react to the temperature drop? Subconsciously, isn't it? We may not know that it is happening. Subconsciously, your mind sense that the temperature is low. And as a result, you might do certain things without full awareness. Like, for example, something like that. You would have seen people doing this subconsciously without actually being truly aware, because it naturally happens to us. We embrace like this. So if you have a cloth or something, you might put it around your neck while doing the other work. So this is some reaction automatically initiated by a particular subsystem of our body. So in this topic, we are going to discuss a lot between the connection of our mind and the body. Mind-body connection is very important for us to know, to have good health, physically as well as mentally. Okay, so this reaction arises, right? So from time to time, you might embrace like this. And what will happen if the room temperature is further reduced? It becomes even cooler. What is going to be the reaction? Sometimes you might feel shivering, isn't it? The hands will be shivering. And that is also a subconscious response. None of us consciously shiver like that, but subconsciously the body will start to react by shivering like that. Okay, let's look at what happens here. What is the mind doing there as a reaction for this? This is your skin. This is the surface of the skin. And these are the blood vessels, the main blood vessel. And these are the smaller blood vessels which come very close to the skin everywhere in the body. The blood vessels have this kind of connections within the skin. You can see the bypass paths like this. And when the outside becomes very cold, the body needs to maintain its temperature. So if the blood supply goes very close to the skin here, the skin will radiate the heat available in the blood to the surroundings. Therefore, the body does this. Actually, it is the mind doing this subconsciously. Bypass all this part of the capillaries which are coming closer to the skin surface, and let all the blood flow like this in a short circuit path, maintaining or retaining the available heat. It controls the nerve endings here to close this path by the brain. So shunt vessels, these are called shunt vessels. Then blood flow is diverted like this. Very smart, isn't it? And it happens automatically. While in our previous example, while you are listening to the lecturer, these things will be happening to everyone's bodies, but they are fully unaware that it happens. Then, if the body heat cannot still be preserved, that means assuming that the cold condition outside is severe, and if it becomes even more colder, this shunting technique cannot prevent the temperature drop. And that is why the mind send a command for you to embrace like this. Okay? So if this is insufficient to maintain the body temperature, then this embracing command will be given by the mind to you. So you may be listening to the lecture, but still this command will be activated, and subconsciously you will do that. Why? This is to minimize the surface area from which the body heat is dissipated to the surroundings. So when the surface area is minimized, heat can be preserved more. So that is the second attempt by the mind. First attempt is this one, bypass blood. If it cannot prevent the body heat loss, second attempt is give the command to embrace. If that also fails, suppose the room becomes even cold, more cold, and even the embracing is not enough, then because the heat dissipation cannot be prevented now, what the body will do is it will try to generate some heat and give the command to your hands and other muscles to vibrate. When the muscles vibrate like this, more heat will be internally generated. All that is being done by the mind. How is this related to stress? I am coming to that. But first be aware, I am taking an example, subsystem of the body and the mind of subsystem of temperature control, body temperature control, because we know the body temperature has to be kept constant. So there must be a feedback loop which is continuously operating to keep the temperature constant, isn't it? We are discussing part of it, and we want to know how the mind is getting involved with this kind of activity. This is a summary of what I said, which is the activity of regulation of body temperature. Let's summarize it again at the beginning. Assume room temperature drops. Then heat loss from the body is increased. As a result, body temperature will drop. And then the response. This drop of body temperature will be sensed by the sensors in the body and will be informed through the brain to the mind. Then there will be responses initiated. These are the responses. Look at this. This one, constriction of skin blood vessels, which is the first thing I mentioned. Blood vessels will be bypassed and made smaller. So less blood will be flowing closer to the skin. What is the idea? The heat loss from the body is to be minimized. And second step, curling up or embracing, heat loss from the body will be further minimized. And third option is shivering, which is not minimizing heat loss, but increasing heat production within the body. So three techniques, but two approaches. One is heat loss to be minimized. Second is heat production should be increased. And by using these two techniques, the mind will be trying to get the body temperature to return to the original value, that 98.4. Right, so it will be monitoring again and activating these, or maybe all three activated when it is very cold. All this is to prevent the damage to the body due to cooling, due to coldness. Now, what kind of subsystem is doing this control, feedback control? Okay. I mentioned that body temperature I am taking as an example, but there are many other variables in the body, like the composition of the blood, blood oxygen level, so many variables in the body which are put under this kind of feedback control in order to maintain the stability. So this is what really happened. If you take such a variable, in our example I took temperature, the body will be sensing an imbalance in the temperature with respect to the value it wants to maintain. Then as a result, change in variable happens due to something outside. External stimulus will change the variable, and change will be detected by receptors or sensors in the body. Then that input from the sensors will go to the control center, which is combined brain and mind, and it will take decisions about the variable and what to do. We'll communicate it to what they call effectors or actuators in order to do these actions like embracing, the vibrations, shivering, done by the effectors or actuators. And after that, the body will be monitored again to check whether this variable came back to the original value. So all this is happening without the full awareness, maybe without the full awareness of the person. Okay. What are the other variables? Let me give you few examples. Regulation of body temperature is the example we discussed. Blood pH value is also regulated by this kind of a feedback loop. Blood pressure is also regulated by this kind of a feedback loop. Blood sugar level also regulated like this. And many other variables, physical variables, being put under a feedback control system like this. You can read this. The process that maintain the stability of the human body's internal environment in response to changes in the external conditions. Process that maintains the stability of the human body's internal environment, that means all those variables, in response to the changes in external conditions. This process is known as homeostasis. Remember that word. It is a big system involving many variables like temperature. What it does is, in response to the external stimuli, it will maintain the stability of the values of these variables. Homeostasis system. It is working right now in your body, right now in my body as well. But it is not the body doing it automatically. The mind is involved. How much we have to discuss. Okay. Then what causes any disturbance to the homeostasis of the body? There can be physical demands or physical reasons. There could be mental reasons. There could be emotional demands that will tend to disturb the homeostasis of the body. You know, homeostasis is a feedback loop, right? And if it is disturbed, the variables will go astray. Variables will not be maintained properly. This can happen due to physical demands, mental demands, or emotional demands that you get. And such physical, mental, or emotional demands that tend to disturb the homeostasis of the body is given a name. It is given a name. I think you already guessed what the name could be. Okay. This is our topic today, stress. So what I have written here is the definition of the stress. It is defined as any physical, mental, or emotional demands that will disturb the homeostasis system of the body, so that the body will start feeling the impact of your thoughts. Hope the word stress is now clear to you. In summary, there is a big system continuously maintaining the stability of the body by controlling many variables. And that variable set, if it is disturbed due to any demand that comes to your mind or body from outside, then it is called a stress situation. And that stimulus from the external environment is called the stressor. It is called the stressor. So stressor is what causes stress in our mind and the body. Try to understand it like that. Then is stress so bad? Is it bad? To answer that, we have to discuss this. There is a curve called human function curve. Human function curve, which plot our performance versus the amount of stress. If you take the stress level to the x-axis and how you perform your task to the y-axis, what kind of shape will be there? Can you guess? It is this shape. Up to a certain point, when stress is increased, your performance actually increases. Therefore, that level of stress is said to be beneficial to some extent because you can achieve good performance. Right? Then, they say a certain level of stress is therefore needed to achieve optimum performance by the person. It could be some kind of a tension that you feel in the mind, which makes you perform something. But, well, this optimum means you feel some alertness, you feel activated. You feel alert and you feel activated. Then your activities, maybe it is sports, or it could be learning, or it could be any other social work. Your performance will be good with alertness and the feeling of that active feeling. But if you increase the stress level further, this optimum performance is not going to be there. This is what is going to happen. It reduces the performance. And not only that, it prevents the inner happiness. Okay, this is a function curve. It's a theory from 1982 by Nixon, which is used in motivation of workforce very much nowadays. X-axis is arousal of the stress. Y-axis is the activity or performance you can get out of a person or get out of yourself. Initially, it's increasing, you can see, but slowly curving like this. You come into an area called comfort zone where there is a certain level of tension in the mind or stress, but it does not make you feel uncomfortable. Right? So that is called the comfort zone. And this is where the companies or the employers want their employees to be, somewhere here, right? So that they can get nearly optimal performance out of the people. Actually, that is for commercial gain. But as an individual, you can study yourself. So then you notice that there is a certain level of tension or stress that does not make you feel uncomfortable, and that helps you to perform your activities in a way it is good. But there is this point called the hump, and beyond that area, you feel fatigue. Fatigue means you feel tired. You don't feel energized or activated. Further increase of the stress get you exhausted, and this area, it is ill health. That means both your mental health and physical health is severely affected if the stress comes to this area. Usually people need counseling, or in this area actually they need medication, not meditation. They need medication in the form of pills or drugs. Right? So this is how a person reacts to the stress. Beyond this point, Nixon identified the word distress. Before this point, he says it's good stress. Good for whom? You have to ask yourself. Right? Hope it is clear what happens to the mind and the body when the stress goes beyond this hump. Right? Well, by the way, I think you already have some measurement about yourself, isn't it? Where are you? Are you in health tension area or comfort zone or close to this peak? Okay. I'm not sure whether you are here also. I hope not. Right? Anyway, this is some personal curve, which means this level of stress here will vary from person to person to reach the peak. Therefore, this is not having any values as such. It's kind of a qualitative measurement or diagram, which varies from one individual to another. But it throws some light, some understanding of what's going to happen to our mind and the body when there is stress, isn't it? Now, that point, the hump, beyond that, we call it stress overload. That leads to distress. Under what kind of demands that you feel overload, that you feel the stress is overloading. One thing is, suppose you are given a task. Suppose you are given a task and you feel that the time given to you is not enough. First quiz, you complain that, isn't it? You feel that, okay, I have the ability to answer, but here the lecturer has not given enough time to me. Right? Then you feel stressed. Right? It's not only a quiz, any task, right? Any task. If you feel that you are capable, but time is not enough. Also, there could be a situation that you feel you are not capable. There will be a times that someone assigns you something, some work has to be done, but you know very well that your capability uh, is insufficient to perform that, to get the job done. Then you get stressed. Sometimes you feel, okay, the capability is fine, I have the capability. Time is also okay, I have enough time to do it. But there are these other people who are disturbing, who are blocking my progress. Right? You feel like that. All these are perceptions, thoughts in your mind. So that thought that other people are blocking your performance or blocking your work is also causing stress. So there are three possibilities, three ways that the stress overload can happen in our minds. Let me write it. First one, you can read. What is being asked from you is beyond your perceived abilities. Remember, perceived abilities. Perceived means you think that your ability is not enough, but your ability may be enough, right? But what matters is what you think about it. So if you think it is not enough, it is causing stress in the mind. Then, second, too much is asked from me in too short time. Too much is asked from me in too short time. Time is not enough. Three, unnecessary obstacles or barriers are put in my progress, blocking me from achieving the goal. Have you come across any of these situations? I'm sure in many of your activities, these things are felt by your mind, isn't it? If you are smart, you will not allow these demands to make stress overload in your mind. But if you are unaware, not smart enough, then stress overload may occur without your knowledge, and it may repeatedly occur, and slowly doing some changes to your mind as well as the body. You would like to know, I'm sure you would like to know, what are the changes such repeated stress overload will do to your mind and also your body, isn't it? I'm sure you are interested so that you can control it, right? So this is where the mindfulness plays an important role. If you have developed mindfulness, when the stress goes beyond your comfort zone, you feel that you are aware, you are mindful about it. And when it goes beyond that hump, causing overload, of course, it cannot happen without your awareness, without your mindfulness, once you have practiced the mindfulness. So link what we are discussing to the mindfulness meditations, then you will see a person who has developed mindfulness is unlikely to miss this overload. He will know, and he or she will be able to correct it. Correction methods we have to discuss. But before I take you to those corrective measures, I want to give you some knowledge about what will happen to our mind and the body when stress overload occurs. Right? You may remember this diagram, which we studied some time back under mindfulness meditation. Our senses here, they bring us inputs, external stimuli. In our discussion today, the external stimuli are brought by this. For example, that temperature change is sensed by the sensors in the body and brought in here. When the mind learns or become conscious of these inputs, you know, if it is an average mind, not trained enough to control the emotions, these five hindrances will become powerful. Maybe one or two even hindrances will become powerful. They take over the control and pull the mind in their own directions. Like the six animals, different animals pulling in different directions. The analogy I gave you that day, you can remember now. Okay, suppose the task is too much for you, given task, and you feel fear or you feel anxious that you will not be able to complete it. Then there will be this doubt setting up, and also there will be aversion setting up. Fear also belongs to this. Fear, hatred, sorrow, all that is in this area. So such feelings will set in when five hindrances or hindrances take over. So usually you have to be fully aware of these hindrances. They are the culprits. They are the culprits which drive you, which take you beyond that hump to the overload or distress level. Suppose even the sensory desire. Suppose you have a sensory desire which is overdriven, too much, then that itself will take you beyond comfort zone. That itself will cause stress because you have desire, but you don't have a way to gratify that. Then even this one, when it becomes powerful, stress overload will occur. So any of these five, when they become powerful, stress overload will be the result. Remember these five states of the mind. So they are the states you will feel before the overload happens. Just before the overload happens, you will feel that your mind has gone to one of these states. and that state becomes very intense and takes your mind to this stress overload condition. Therefore, if a person is mindful of the hindrances and know how to control them, uh, then stress overload can be fully avoided, 100% avoided by the person. So those are the techniques I was giving earlier under mindfulness topic and the concentration topic. In general, this is what the doctors say. This stress overload affect the mental and physical well-being of a person. Mental well-being is now called mental health, physical well-being called physical health. Both will be affected due to stress overload. In fact, if stress overload is prolonged means it stays for a longer duration in your mind, the damage could occur. Mental and physical health will be affected. Okay. Let's look at physical effects because they can be easily seen. After that, we'll look at the mind and mental effects. Right? When stress overload happens, due to the three reasons I gave you, what are the three reasons? One is that I'm not capable to do this, that feeling. Second is that I'm capable, but time is not enough. Third is I'm capable, time is also enough, but there are obstacles put in my way. When such feeling take over your mind, the hindrances will arise and these physical effects occur. Heartbeat will increase. These things you have felt, I'm sure, from time to time. Faster breathing occur. In fact, why? The body is preparing you, isn't it? The mind is preparing the body to counteract that external stimulus. That's why heart rate is increased, breathing increased, blood pressure is increased, muscle tension is increased, dilated pupils in the eye, pupils will be dilated. You feel mouth is dry, you feel like that. Blood sugar level rises. Again, blood sugar rises to prepare you for some activity. And these activities, these effects are generated by hormones in the blood. Hormones like adrenaline, cortisol, catecholamines. I will be describing this in a moment, but remember the names at the moment. Adrenaline, cortisol, catecholamines, and HGH, human growth hormones. They are the main hormones. When they are present in the blood, they cause these things to occur or happen. And more things to happen, which I will explain slowly. Later on, we will have to find a method to counteract this through meditation, which is coming later. I already mentioned all these physical effect is actually a war launched by the nature. That means your body is part of the nature, isn't it? Mind is also part of the nature. So it's a natural reaction or natural war launched by the mind and the body against what? Against that external stimulus or stressor that cause the stress. And it's given a special name. They call it fight or flight response of the body. Fight or flight response of the body. Remember that name also. In order to fight or in order to avoid, the body is being prepared to counteract. Okay. For that purpose, chemicals, that chemicals are actually these hormones I mentioned, they are generated by certain organs of the body, and then they are liberated to the blood, released to the blood. And I will be giving details of what are these chemicals and which parts of the body is responsible for each chemical. We'll slowly discuss. But in general, you can notice when you feel stress overload, immediately these hormones are liberated or released to the blood by the command to release is coming from the mind actually. It is the mind taking over this fight or flight response. Which means we need to have a good understanding of the mind-body connection. Is there a connection between what happens in the body and what I think? What happens in the body and what you think? Are the thoughts related to the body? Are the thoughts doing certain changes in the body? We all should be fully aware. Let's study it a little bit more. The connection between the mind and the body. Mind, you know, is always monitoring. Monitoring means listening and attending, taking care of the body because the mind needs the body for the gratification of the desires. Mind needs the body in order to gratify the desires. The body has no desires actually. All the desires are there in the mind, but the mind needs the body in order to gratify the desires. Therefore, mind is taking care of the body, attending to all its needs. Taking care because it is needed by the mind. In return, the mind is giving certain commands to the body. So the body will be always listening to those commands and responding to them. And therefore, the body is always responding and listening to the thoughts that the mind carries. So it is the mind which is handling the meanings of everything, right? There are certain meanings you have given to different activities of the world, different things in the world. All the meanings are not carried by the body actually, it's carried by the mind. Emotions are in the mind, right? Beliefs are in the mind. Self-image, all those mental images are also in the mind. Instincts occur in the mind. All habits are formed in the mind. Likewise, there are many things that the mind does. Then, the brain, the other organ here, is acting like the input-output processor for the mind, it provides the interface with the body, between the body and the external world, through eyes, ears. So there are parts in the brain which handle the eyes. There are parts in the brain which is responsible for ears, the listening. So all those input-output, that means eyes, ears, nose, and the tongue and all that, all the sensors in the body are wired to this input-output processor. And this processor is actually the interface between the body and the external world. Right. Then, suppose some inputs come, maybe through your friends or through news or through newspapers. Some information arrives in your mind. Right? Say, for example, if you consider health situation, right now we have this pandemic, for example, then news about the social health is being received by your mind, isn't it? Day by day, through other people's communications or through newspapers, TV, everything, that information arrive in our mind through the senses like eyes, ears, etc. Okay, so therefore social health can affect our mental health. Right? Then it is the mind which gets all that information and give meanings to those information. And then because the mind is in contact all the time with this input-output processor called the brain, the thoughts you generate here is going to make some changes in the physical body, because all the physical body is wired through the neural system to this processor. So this is the mind and the brain interface. So the thoughts that you make in the mind is actually somewhat communicated to the physical parts of the body. And this communication happens through a system called PNEI system, which we will look at in a moment. And it is the brain which will manifest such commands into physical activities. Let's look at a few examples. In the PNAI system, this part is called the psycho part, the mind. That is the letter P. And the brain is directly connected with three other subsystems known by these names. There is one subsystem called nervous subsystem. All the nerves going through the body up to each muscle, everywhere into the skin as well, all that belong to the nervous system. Then the brain is also connected to endocrine system. I'm going to explain this. It's a collection of glands. Then there is immune system. This is N, this is E, this is I, this is P. So the total system is called PNEI by the medical terms, PNEI system. The homeostasis I explained earlier is actually handled by PNEI system. So it's very important for us to be aware of these things as well, although they are medical things. Since we are discussing this part, the psycho part, it's very important for us to know what these parts are doing, so that by using certain thoughts here, we may be able to do certain changes in the nervous system, endocrine system, or immune system of the body. That is our idea here. That is what we do as stress management. So the system in medical terms is called psycho, neuro, endocrine, immune system. Psycho, neuro, endocrine, immune system. You can read about this in the net. There are a lot of details, medical details, which I'm not going to present all that to you. Okay, we'll have a short break there, have 10 minutes break. After that, we will go into details of PNEI and its constituent parts. Have the break now.